Jim, let's get straight to the point. There are some people who would question what's the point of the Nuneaton Borough Supporters Co-Operative. What would you say to them?
Well, I'd say the cooperative, it's got lots of aims and ambitions, but if we were to really summarise the point of it is to work with the club on behalf of the supporters to enhance the matchday experience for the supporters, get their views known to the club.
And that's not new. I mean, most clubs want representation, but it's never been an easy ride. And I know we don't want to dwell on the past, but what fresh approach are you going to bring with the new members of the committee to ensure that it isn't sort of stilted and you know, there's always been this sort of lack of dialogue perhaps and a little bit of frustration maybe?
Well, I think, like I said, without dwelling too much on the past, I think a lot of that lack of dialogue and perceived lack of progress from the co-op, it's just a function of the history of the club. You know, there's been that many different owners of the ground, owners of the club, chair people, managers. You know, that dialogue is like the fortunes of the club. It's gone up and down, and it's not always been smooth. So, you know, we've got to look to the future really. And what I've found in the last 6 months, you know, we've had a pretty good dialogue with the club. I'd say Jason Dean has been, I'd say he's made an effort to, talk to us, cooperate with us, help facilitate ideas that we've got. And that's the only way we can achieve things really. You know, it has to be working together. And
you mentioned the changes in management, ownership, ground ownership, new grounds. We both come from families whose fathers and grandfathers have been Borough fans all their lives. We were brought up supporting our hometown club. So the one thing that's been consistent is the fans, and yet it's the fans who often have felt frustrated because there hasn't been that kind of dialogue with the club. So how is that going to change? You've already said you've spoken with Jason Dean. What plans have we got to look forward to?
Well, I don't think it's any secret that perhaps it's a function of the history of COVID. The members of the co-op board have been around for quite a long time. I'm new to it. I have to say that those people who have been around a long time, they made me feel very welcome when I joined the co-op board about 18 months ago. So, you know, they're people who are open to new ideas, new people, but we do need to represent a more diverse section of the Borough fans because we want to represent the Borough fans and their opinions and ideas. So we very much would welcome people coming forward who can spare a bit of time, who are committed to the Borough with new ideas. They won't be the same as our ideas. Of course they won't. You know, if we get younger people involved, we get women on the board, bring your ideas forward, you know. It's only that way that we're going to...
But what would you say then to those people that say, well, we tried this, we've brought ideas and either they don't get listened to or implemented, or it takes such a long time. Let's use an example. So I know that the facility for disabled people has been on the agenda for as long as I can remember.
Absolutely.
Cooperative members like Roger have sadly passed away and not seen that project, but they've been pushing that project for a long time. It's took forever.
Correct.
It's nearly finished.
Yeah.
Roger would be very proud. He was somebody who really pushed for that.
Yes.
But if everything takes that long, anybody coming to the committee, especially a young person, think, you know what, this isn't for me, I want something more dynamic.
Precisely. But why did it take so long? Because that dialogue wasn't there. The money was there.
Yeah.
The money's been there for years. It's because no one could agree who could give permission to do it, who was going to build it. All these things were just not addressed properly. And there's fault at both sides. But you know what, we've done that now in the last 3 or 4 months. It's been pretty painless. You know, I'm sitting here saying, why did it take 10 years? I can't believe it. It's taken 4 months. And that's because we've had a dialogue. We've worked in cooperation with the club. Jason Dean, helped put us in touch with appropriate contractors, made sure we got permission, written permission off the owner of the ground to go ahead and make some modifications. It's been pretty painless, quite honestly. So, with the right attitude from both sides, you can get things done quickly.
And interestingly,
And
because
not get bogged down.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? People want progress. If it's just a meeting for a meeting's sake, and I have been to a couple of Supporters CoOperative meetings, and it's nice to see everybody. But really, if you're an action-orientated person like I am, you come away, or I used to come away thinking, just get on with it. Come on. Now, you bring in a fresh approach. There are new committee members. You need the history to be represented as well. You can't just kick that generation out. I know that the club in the past has looked to the Supporters CoOperative for money, maybe to run the club, whereas the Supporters CoOperative said, no, we'll perhaps buy something for the club, like, I don't know, new nets or washing machines or the disabled facility.
Yeah.
Is that shifting at all, or is that still the way things are going to work?
No, I would say that, we want to use our money to buy things to benefit the supporters. We haven't got loads of money. We can't take over the club. We can't run the club. We haven't got that sort of money. I don't think we ever will have, quite honestly. So I think that's a wrong perception if that's what you and other people think. I mean, the cooperative has given money to the club.
I was going to ask you about that again. Historically, in a moment of real need, where the club looked like it could go out of business.
More than once, by the way. People remember 3 years ago, but you talk to those in the know. It's happened in the past as well.
And I don't know whether that goes against the constitution of the cooperative to bail the club out in that way.
Well, it took some explaining to our accountant for the end of year accounts. Yes, because it's not really what we're there to do. But it was like a lot of other people felt, it was an emergency situation. What do you want to do? Let the club completely disappear?
Well, and there are some people that would have argued, well, let the club disappear and the fans will create it again, playing on local parks pitches and funded by the fans, for the fans.
That could happen. That could happen. I mean, and it's happened with lots of clubs, hasn't it? But I think if you look at those clubs, a fan-led club, it can go so far. If you've got no alternative, it's the right thing to do. If the borough completely disappeared, a fans group would have stepped forward. We would have been part of that. But we'd have been in a much lower league. And, you get these fans-led clubs, you get to a certain level, and then they need investment. So, let's try and look at where we are now and move forward from that.
And that's refreshing to hear, that you've got this dialogue now, but it is down to people. And he needs Jason to move on, or, Jimmy's been a massive catalyst in bringing Nuneaton together. And I've always felt, as a Nuneaton person and a Nuneaton fan, that this club belongs to the people of Nuneaton. And I doubt we get fans from elsewhere, although Nuneaton people who've moved away, you've moved away, you still follow the results. I know people in Australia and America still follow the results. There's something about Nuneaton that
points. I've got a cousin in Luxembourg who does.
There you go. So the ownership of the club, both in terms of the actual ownership, but that feeling that this is ours. Do you think the Supporters CoOperative can engender that?
Yes, I do. And I think it's the right time for us to really focus on that, because the club, since Jimmy Janae took over, let's face it, it's been a bit of a firefighting mode, hasn't it? They would admit that. I think now they're in a position where they're starting to think, how do we want the club to look in 3 years' time, 5 years' time? How do we want to make it successful on the pitch, financially stable, financially sustainable if we go to a higher league, and to be fully integrated into the community with the right facilities and infrastructure to go with that. It's a big task when you say all that, isn't it? But I think it's the right time. If people want to get involved, now's the time for that dialogue, for that plan to be put together.
And we'll talk about that, because the future is important, and a sustainable future. We've all seen the boom and bust. It's not just Nuneaton, lots of clubs have gone through it. At the pursuit of success on the pitch, because as much as we want to see, small children wearing Nuneaton shirts, we want to see a diverse audience represented in the crowd, we want to get women playing the game, which the club is doing. At the end of the day, if the first team are doing well, everything feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can't deny it. I mean, let's face it, a lot of Borough fans, they turn around and say, well, as long as we're in the higher league than Tamworth, I'm a happy Borough fan, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, I do think there's a lot more to it than that. And I think if you look at the modern successful clubs at our level or slightly higher, yeah, they've got to have a successful first team, but they're far more integrated into the community.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd like to think that's the way the club will go.
And that starts with the ground, doesn't it? You know, if you've got a stadium that is owned by the football club, or the relationship with the owners is mutual, you know, that everybody says this is not just for the football club, this is for the people of Nuneaton. So we've got examples of Paul's Land, you know. I mean, I remember asking my parents, why is it called Paul's Land? And they explained, you know, this was a gift. It's held in trust. This is for the people of Nuneaton. And it made me think, you know, someone said to me once, if you won the Euro Millions, Dave, would you buy the football club? No, actually. Now I've seen how hard it is, and I think Jimmy Ginley would be the first to say, stay away. But I wouldn't mind putting something towards a stadium that could be a centre of sport and other activities. You know, you could have classroom facilities here. And then your legacy would live on, whether the team is promoted or not. That would be something to aim for. Can the co-op help with that?
Yeah, absolutely, we can help. As I say, by getting more people involved, by raising more money, by working with the club to talk to the relevant authorities that can help facilitate that. You know, so all this is... Because
people are busy. I mean, I remember Jimmy in the first year or two, he said, I can't concentrate on the playing side because the roof's falling in my office, and the electric's gone off, or I've got somebody knocking on the door asking for a bill to be paid that I didn't realise needed being paid, and all of those things, like you say, firefighting. But as you say, things seem to be steady now, and we'll talk about the finances of the club with other members in these interviews. So if it's now is the moment, and you say people can come forward, what can they do? You talked about volunteering. What can people do to help the cooperative?
Right, well, firstly, we need people who can give up some time, you know, as you said. We've got lots of members who'll pay their membership money. We need some people who can give up some time, and, you know, preferably people with some expertise in certain areas as well, you know, financial, legal areas that can bring us extra expertise, which we can then use to help the club. And yeah, basically bring ideas and have the time to help us implement those ideas, I'd say. And
if there's separate projects, like we've talked about the disabled facility, you know, if there's a project that somebody could really gain interest in. So if I come from, let's say, a planning application background, then I might want to come and say, well, look, I can help if we are going to move grounds, or if we're going to improve this facility, that I could help with that. So
yeah, I think
you
you're
want
right,
specific things, don't you?
Yeah,
really?
We do, and I think that's something, you know, over the coming months we have to sit down with the club and say, well, what do you need help with?
Yeah.
And then we have to try and help source that help.
And it frees up other people to do their job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Jimmy focuses just on the playing side and doesn't get stretched, or whoever's the manager. So you talk about raising money. Obviously, there's the 200 club. I know that the club used to run that, but it was given to the cooperative to run. Another couple of hundred members of that would be handy, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that has been a great source of revenue for the co-op and for the club as well, because we sort of share the proceeds after the prize money. But yeah, more people who join that, the more we can put to good causes at the club. And that money's all spent, you know, to benefit the supporters, basically.
So what would be next? If the facility for the disabled people was the big sort of blue chip flagship project that's just been completed, what would be the next 2 or 3 priorities?
Well, I'm pleased you say that, because, you know, that's something that I wanted to think about and discuss with the other board members, because we haven't really got another big project on the table at the moment, which is another reason it's a good time for people to come forward. If someone's been there, you know, thinking, well, why don't they just get on and do this? bring your ideas forward.
Yeah.
Let's hear about them.
And redeveloping and you know, we all know that this structure that we're sitting in now was only ever meant to be temporary.
Yeah.
We're still here, and it's a real struggle to maintain it. Now, we don't know what the future holds in terms of you know, staying on this patch of land or whether we would move, but just improving this facility, because there's a missed opportunity when you go to some football grounds and they're used all day, aren't they? Mothers and toddlers groups,
Yeah.
fitness classes, all sorts of things going on, weddings at the weekend. There's a massive missed opportunity, not just about generating revenue, but getting it used by the people from Nuneaton, which is what we said we wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, and the facilities are not great for that. There are more opportunities we could do, but you know, you've got a situation, haven't you, where there's been a tremendous growth in the youth teams, the women's teams playing, but they're all dispersed all over Nuneaton, aren't they? You know, it'd be great to centre that more on this club, on this site.
And that might mean 4G pitches,
Absolutely.
and you know, that seems to be the level. I mean, I'm conflicted on that. I'm a traditional, you know, guy that likes to see it played on real grass, but you know, if needs must, and you get this facility used 24/7, that would be great. So, I mean, it's been great chatting to you. I mean, we've bonded at the fact that we both went to school together many years ago.
Yeah.
Just emphasises the fact that Nuneaton people, wherever they live, are all in this together. And Jimmy and the other members of the club have done a great job of getting that collective back together, haven't they? So, people want to get involved. What should they do next?
Right, well, we'll put the contact details for myself and for the co-op on the website, make sure it's very clear when we put out the video. We'll have a meeting at the club in March, and I think that'd be a good opportunity if people want to come along, just chat with us, see if they want to get involved, meet some of the people, and you know, as I say, we welcome any.
So that's an open meeting that anybody can come to. We can put that on the. What's the website address for people that don't know the cooperative's address? Or
I don't know off the top of my head, Dave.
Well, we'll get that.
It's very easy to find on the borough website.
There we go.
Under information documents.
There you go. So people can be redirected to find you. But I mean, there's been a lot of frustration on both sides, I think, the football club and the Supporters CoOperative over the years. You'll bring in a fresh perspective and hopefully a fresh impetus. We've seen some success as well more recently. You're confident about the future going forward in that relationship?
Yeah, I don't see any problems with it at the moment. You know, as long as both sides keep an open mind for the benefit of the club, I think we can make good progress.
Yeah, and always keeping in mind the audience, which is the fans.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
the people, as we've said, like our parents and our grandparents, who will always be here through thick and thin, regardless of how the team is doing and who owns the place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant talking to you. Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Right.
If you want more information about Nuneaton Borough Football Club, sign up to our social media channels or go to the website.